welcome to Catholic Explaining. Prepare yourself, you're about to be Catholic Explained. What are we Catholic Explaining today? Well, it is the 10th Commandment. We're finally ending the whole 10 Commandment series that started on my other channel and is concluding here. And then I will be going on to other topics for live streams. I'm so happy to actually be here for a live stream because sometimes Sunday does not lend itself toward it because of total big old things that are always happening in life, especially, none other that it's a Sabbath, but also the fact that things happen. But guess what? I am here and I'm happy to be unwinding from a long day today and being here with you to conclude the 10 Commandments. Well, we have Steve Kenobi here. Hi there, Teresa, you honey muffin. How are you today? Well, I am doing well. I saw that you had the eclipse, partial eclipse over there from the north. Was that your picture you took, by the way? If so, that was a darn good picture. And if it wasn't, pretend it was yours, because that's awesome. But welcome everyone here that is watching now and will be watching at the replay. I have now 205 subscribers. I want to thank all of you that have been subscribing and enjoying the shorts that I've been doing. And maybe we'll be doing more live. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it and talk about the 10 Commandments. We're going to do a rundown. But before we do, Stieg is admitting that he stole it from Facebook. Well, that's okay. Thank you for your honesty. Because here on Catholic Explaining, we do not break the 10 Commandments. What happened to the rest of it? Let me see. Maybe I unshared the screen. Let me share it again. I thought I had it shared, my slideshow. All right, here we are. To recap, the first commandment. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make yourself a graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. It is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. Commandment number 2. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Commandment 3. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work. The 4th commandment, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land which the Lord your God gives you. The 5th commandment, you shall not kill. The 6th commandment, you shall not commit adultery. The 7th commandment, you shall not steal. The 8th commandment, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. The 9th commandment, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. And drum roll, the 10th commandment, you shall not covet your neighbor's goods. That's what we're talking about today. Zeke is reminding me that he was my first subscriber. Well, thank you very much. And he's also my first wrench. So, you shall not covet your neighbor's goods. What does that mean? Well, here we go. We like to do a lot of explaining here on Catholic Explaining, and of course, ripping off completely from the church because they've already done the work for me. Catechism of the Catholic Church 2536. The 10th commandment forbids greed and the desire to amass earthly goods without limit. So here we go. Greed and the desire to amass earthly goods without limit. Think about what it does to your soul if you are obsessed with all of that. It forbids avarice arising from a passion for riches and their attendant power. See, goods and wanting to have goods are in themselves not bad, but things like avarice and the whole idea of wanting to get things to go beyond limits, like your whole life, or becoming a miser, or just wanting more and more money and power. It's bad. It's bad for your soul. It also forbids the desire to commit injustice by harming our neighbor in his temporal goods. 2537. It is not a violation of this commandment to desire to obtain things that belong to one's neighbors. For example, my neighbor has their very own swimming pool. I would love to be able to just step out my backyard and jump into a pool, but I can't. There's nothing wrong with saying, man, I would love to have a pool in my backyard. But it's how I go about it. And then provided this is done by just means. Yes, Steve, you demanded you get a wrench. You've got it. It is salty traveling. See, hello. Hey, Teresa, traveling back from Portland Comic Con, spent the weekend with North Portal. I saw that. I saw that. Yeah, see, speaking of desiring one's neighbor's goods, I saw what you posted, what you all were doing and seeing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is just so good. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if I decided that I was going to drive over there and harm Salty Traveling or Nordpoil to get to their goods that they got at the Comic Con, that would be wrong, avaricious. Oh dear. Speaking of filthy heathens, here, Salty. Dear me. Well, hey, you know what? We love our atheists, our agnostics, and actually, I'm not sure what Salty is, but that's okay. But, you know, we're very ecumenical here at Miss Martin Muses. And he is not a filthy heathen, so go away. Oh wait, I guess that's not Christian. This is where I try to behave myself. I always tell people there's a reason why we have confession and there's a reason why I go. Okay? I am not perfect. 2538. The 10th commandment requires that envy be banished from the human heart. You see, we're getting into envy. Go back to my 7 deadly sins streams. Those will also help you with these. It's the idea of what you do with these goods or how you want these goods, or if you want unjust means to take away someone else's goods, to obsess over someone else's goods. It's just like, that's just crazy. I would also add that with talent, even though it was completely fictional. The whole Amadeus movie with Salieri, the way he viewed the talent that Mozart had, how he was envious of it. Oh, see, look, everyone's being nice to each other in the chat. That's very nice. Thank you. So the 10th commandment requires that envy be banished from the human heart. Get it out of your heart. This is where it all is just so logical and good for daily living, and why in many ways these are universal law. They can be held by everyone, especially the second part of the commandments, the ones about justice and dealing with neighbor. Because if you banish envy from your heart, so many good things will flow from that. And in the same way, bad things will flow from the opposite. Speaking of envy, you see, this is why envy. So 10th commandment has to do with envy. It is a capital sin. Whenever you see the word capital in Catholicism, you are dealing with what we call mortal sin, which is the sin that kills your soul. So you're dealing with grave matter and mortal sin. Now, objectively, it's a capital sin, it's a mortal sin. But remember, for mortal sin to be truly mortal, 3 conditions have to be present. A, you have to know it's a sin. You have to freely choose that you know what you're doing. You know it's a sin, and you're going to do it anyways. But you still haven't committed a mortal sin. Third one is you have to do it. 3 things to make it a mortal sin. Otherwise, it's a venial sin. It refers to the sadness at the sight of another's good. So think about envy. Envy is the sadness at the sight of another's goods. And when we use things like sadness in Catholicese, we're not just talking about, oh, I'm going to cry because I'm feeling sad. It's talking about a sort of mortal sorrow state of the soul, because these were not written in English originally. I think sometimes they could have translated it using better words, but no one asked me. The sadness at the sight of another's goods and the immoderate desire to acquire them for oneself, even unjustly. Immoderate desire. So desire is okay, but immoderate, that's bad. To acquire them for oneself, even unjustly. For example, through theft or other means. Underhandedness, lying, slander, calumny. Speaking of which here, when it wishes grave harm to a neighbor, it is a mortal sin. Yeah, and Stieg is talking about Salty's comic collection, and he is envious of him for that. Though technically you're not envious, you're probably jealous. You would be envious if you wanted to steal it from him or take it by unjust means, or you would wish harm upon Salty to get it. Let's see. Okay, Salty Traveling Sea. I have to say I'm objectively and dispassionately that Portland was indeed full of mortal and capital sin. Sadly, there is some truth in that. Portland's crazy. 2540. Envy represents a form of sadness, and therefore, when you see therefore, you need to ask what it is there for. It is therefore a refusal of charity. So when you're envious, you are actively refusing charity, which is life and love and all that kind of stuff. The baptized person should struggle against it by exercising goodwill. And I want to throw this out here. Sometimes you'll see things like the baptized person, etc., because the Catechism of the Catholic Church is written for Catholics. And it doesn't mean that other people shouldn't do these things, but they're talking to Catholics here. The baptized person also includes other Christians, but I'm the audience here. So I should struggle against it by exercising goodwill. Sometimes I tell people you should be very worried if all of a sudden I start to do a lot of nice things for you that seem to come out of nowhere. It is very possible I was thinking of doing something really bad. I was thinking ill will of doing something ill will. And how do you do it? You do something good. Good will always conquer evil. You want to conquer evil, you light a candle. The baptized person should struggle against it by exercising goodwill. You always do the opposite of the vice. You do the virtue that makes it better. Oh, Steek says he's clarifying. He wants to steal it. No harm on him, though. Well, we do not endorse breaking the seventh commandment, so don't do it. Envy often comes from pride. Oh, yes, it does, precious. That's why pride is the primary vice, the capital sin. The baptized person should train himself to live in humility. That's a tricky one. It's hard to be humble sometimes. There's a difference, though, between humility and false humility, or being proud does not always mean pride. Partly how you balance that is also by examining your conscience. People that do not live in humility, you see it. I'll throw this out here. You see it very clearly online, because that is where people are uninhibited. And boy, is it ugly, isn't it? Nice little quote from scripture or from our Lord Jesus Christ. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Boom. You can say what you want till the cows come home, and we won't believe you. Where your treasure is, that's where we know. Same way, we shall know you by your deeds, not by what you say. The 10th commandment forbids avarice arising from a passion for riches and their attendant power. Now, we mentioned avarice a little bit before. Let's see. I think I'm in the summary kind of area here because it looks like it's saying some of the similar things. The baptized person combats envy through goodwill, humility, and abandonment to the providence of God. I know now why I went to the summary, because some of this really goes on forever, and I think it's great and it's beautiful. And if you want to read more, go ahead and read more. But I wanted to be added a little bit of brevity to all of this. The baptized person combats envy through goodwill, humility, and abandonment to the providence of God. Now, this does not mean fake goodwill. Okay, this does not mean that you have something that is unhealthy goodwill. Sometimes people have used these kinds of things from the New Testament, from the teachings of Christ, from the catechism, from the tradition of the church to excuse evil. No, 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 no. It just because we're being told to combat envy through goodwill, that doesn't mean you're a doormat. That doesn't mean that you let someone get away with bad behavior. It doesn't mean that you don't call out evil in a prudent manner. We've talked about prudence with the virtues. Okay. It doesn't mean you look the other way. You combat evil through goodwill, or sorry, envy through goodwill. That has more to do with your own soul. It's not letting others get away with it. Humility, same idea. There's a difference between being humble and being a doormat. One of my favorite priests, a psychologist, Father Benedict Groeschel, may rest in peace. He used to always say you can read the New Testament from the beginning to end and never see Jesus say, go ahead, be dumb. Allow people to do terrible things to you. Allow people to walk all over you. Never says that. He had a call-in show. It was great. And abandonment to the providence of God. Yeah, you do need to abandon yourself to the providence of God. Though that does not mean that you just sit around like that. That story goes, the parable, if you will, where the person's like drowning. And he's like, God, save me. And someone's like, hey, I've got you. Come get me. Just grab onto my arm. And they're like, no, God's going to save me. And then someone comes by in a boat. Like, no, God's going to save me. A helicopter comes down. God's going to save me. That's not what we're talking about. That's not abandoning yourself to the providence of God. That's being stupid. And then, of course, the guy drowns and goes to heaven. And God's like, dude. And he's like, dude, God, back at him. He's like, you were supposed to save me. And he says, I tried. I sent you 3 different people. I sent you a boat. I sent you a person. I sent you a helicopter. Let's see. Oh, Steve has a question. It says, so if you want to perform one piece of negative energy, you do the opposite positive energy to cover the bad one, wipe it out, away, replace it. Yes and no. And the reason why I say yes and no is, well, the terminology you're using when you're using it with energy and stuff, you're talking more in a universal sense. What we would say as Catholics is grace. So in the negative, what we would say, if you are wanting to sin or near occasions of sin, what we call, yes, that you ask God for the grace to, how do I say this? To resist it, but also the grace to, do good works to cover it up. Yeah, they do say that love covers up a multitude of sins. Yes. So you're right, Steve. Yes, but we would say grace. And in the sense of replacing it, it would be that the grace of Christ will be doing that. We don't do things, we're not Pelagianists. We don't believe we do it by acts of our own will necessarily. Maybe that's clear as mud, but that's the way it is. Of course, ever since I played Red Dead Redemption 2, I can't even say that's the way it is without thinking of that song. 2555. Detachment from riches is necessary for entering the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Again, nothing wrong with being rich. We have canonized people that were rich but that wasn't where their treasure was. Like, you can have money, but have that not be your treasure. You can have no money and have that be your treasure. Detachment from riches is necessary for entering the kingdom of heaven. You cannot love God and money. Blessed are the poor in spirit. The poor where? In spirit. And you are obligated that if you do have material means to also share that with the less fortunate within reason. Alrighty. Oh, Stieg is quoting from Red Dead Redemption 2. The many miles we walked, the many things we learned, the building of a shrine only just to burn. Well, yeah, that was a little dark. Blessed are the peacekeepers. That is right. The Beatitudes. I actually have that on my thing this week, actually. The Beatitudes. Yes. So that is what the 10th commandment deals with. So when it all goes together, yeah, it will make you a better person. It'll make you objectively a better person. And also, we believe that it will transform your soul. And if you put your heart toward, and I just say it like in an attitude of gratitude, because sometimes that just makes me so mad. And the reason why it makes me mad is because sometimes people use things like too blessed to be stressed. And I'm like, no, sometimes you should be stressed. It's okay. Just in that if you're stressed, the attitude is, well, you're not being a good Christian. No, none of that. Same idea. But yes, an attitude does affect things. And there is a concept of if you do not have a virtue, if you do not have a correct disposition, if you pretend you have it, you'll actually gradually get it. But yes, the more good you do, it will it it will bring goodness upon you. And not just that, but it will also help you combat sin. This goes to the whole justification thing. I will be covering justification since that is something that we see differently. Those of you that have studied the Protestant Reformation and that's what makes us different from traditional Protestants, is that we do believe that works matter. We don't believe that that earns us justification, but it is a part of our justification. So what you do, your works, it's important, and that you can increase in grace. So there we go. Short one as usual, but that's just the way it is. I said it again because I was going to do a video. It didn't work out, and I would do a live. I'm hoping to do more live ones. So next will probably either be justification, or maybe someone did ask, I believe it was Stephen Ransom. He asked that I do salvation outside the church. Like, for example, how are other Christians viewed with salvation? I will give you a bit of a preview. The fact that we accept the baptism of non-Catholic Christians gives you part of the answer right there. Because if we didn't believe that there was salvation, we would be rebaptizing. So there we are. Thank you, everyone that's been popping in. Thank you, Salty and Traveling Sea. Thank you, Steve Kenobi, and everyone that will be watching on the replay. Yeah. Let me know in the chat or elsewhere if there's anything else you would like to see. I've been very happy to see the views from the shorts. And have a great day. Be certain to keep all the 10 commandments. Live justly, live righteously, live by faith, hope, and love. But remember, the greatest of these is love.